guys, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be testing on my face side by side two of the most long wearing matte foundations out on the market at the moment. Believe me, I have wondered myself which one would be the best out of these two for such a long time, and now I'm putting them to the test. On this side of my face I'll be applying Estée Lauder's Double Wear, and on this side of my face I'm putting Charlotte Tilbury's newly reformulated Airbrush Flawless Foundation. And I'm going to be doing a 10-hour wear test to see which one lasts the longest and the best. So if you're unable to decide between these two, then this video is for you. Okay, so we're going to start off with the double wear on this side of my face. With the pump on this one, you have to purchase it separately, and it does get a little bit gross. It would be nice if they did include the pump when you bought the foundation, however they do not. So in the Estée Lauder Double Wear, I have the shade Warm Vanilla. So that's what the shade Warm Vanilla looks like. As you can see, the consistency is quite a runny one. And this foundation also has some sunscreen in there. It only has SPF 10, so you definitely do need to put your sunscreen on underneath your foundation. So although this shade looks quite yellow when I first put it on, it ends up blending in really nicely into my skin. The color ends up being a nice, slightly warm neutral tone. And Estée Lauder Double Wear is meant to be a matte foundation. I do find, however, it has a skin-like glow to it as well, even though it is meant to be a matte foundation. I find if you do prep your skin with your hydrating toners and moisturizers prior to putting this on, it ends up looking like your skin but better. But it is important with foundations such as this one to really prep your skin. I absolutely love this foundation. This is one of my favorite ones. I've actually had people ask me at work whether I like the Double Wear better than the Charlotte Tilbury. I couldn't answer it. So this video is going to clear it up for myself as well, because I really do like both of them. I find the Double Wear is more of a traditional formula, and it is meant to be long wearing and sweat proof, which I can 100% vouch for that, because it's certainly all those things. There we are. So that's how the Double Wear looks on this half of my face. I'll move in a little bit closer so you can see. It is incredibly skin-like considering that it is a matte foundation. That's what I love about this one. It's not cakey and it doesn't feel drying on the skin. So this side here is the Double Wear by Estée Lauder in the shade Warm Vanilla. And on this side, I'm going to do the newly reformulated Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. Now this one here is also quite a heavy coverage like the Double Wear. However, you'll notice when it does come out, it is more of a foamy, it almost has a light foamy consistency. So the formulation is quite different to the traditional one of Double Wear. So unlike the Double Wear by Estée Lauder, this one actually comes with a pump, which is quite convenient. And the shade I have here is for neutral. This shade's actually a little bit too deep for my skin tone, so I think we will definitely notice a difference with the shades once I put it on my face. So this is what the Charlotte Tilbury looks like. It has more of a compact formulation that is not runny, and I describe it as more moussey because it is a lighter formulation. It's quite amazing actually. It does not budge. It doesn't start dripping anywhere. I don't know what they put in it to make it stay still like this. I'm just starting off with a one pump because this one is quite heavy from the get-go. As you can see, the shade is way too deep for my skin. It's coming out very warm, but we'll make it work. It's mainly just to see how they compare against each other. You have to work quickly with this one because it dries down quickly. Can we just pause for a moment to appreciate the coverage of this foundation? It's amazing. It gets rid of pigmentation right from the get-go, and I've only just used one drop of it. So when comparing it to the Double Wear Estée Lauder, it is quite a lot more of a flawless coverage. I did build the Estée Lauder up a little bit more to get it to this coverage. I also find that the Charlotte Tilbury is a little bit more hydrating on the skin as well compared to the Double Wear. So this is just with the one pump. I'm just going in with a second pump, but a very small amount. It's unbelievable. The Charlotte Tilbury is going to last me a long time because you don't need to use much. You don't need to use much to get the coverage that you want from it. The difference is actually very noticeable. Despite the color difference, the Charlotte Tilbury has come out a lot more flawless on the skin, and the coverage is a lot heavier than that of the Double Wear. I thought I'd never see the day where something was going to be heavier than Double Wear. I find the Double Wear actually looks a little bit more natural on the skin, and I'd say that's only because the coverage is not too heavy. But then again, the Charlotte Tilbury is absolutely flattering on the skin. It blurs absolutely everything. But the double wear also does that as well. I find that I have no pores or pigmentation with either product. The Charlotte Tilbury, like it's named, just has a really flawless and airbrush look on the skin. So that's the difference that is quite noticeable between the two. They both are meant to be really long wearing, so we are going to put that to the test. I'm just going to put the rest of my makeup on and we'll see how it layers on top of each foundation. I'll see you soon. Okay, I'm back. I've put the rest of my makeup on, and as I knew and expected, everything performs beautifully over the top of both foundations. They actually look very, very similar once the makeup is actually on top. And you can't really notice too much of a color difference. Even though the Charlotte Tilbury is a bit deeper, you can't even tell once I have my makeup on top. So this is how the Estée Lauder looks with all the makeup on top, which is wonderful. This is one of my favorite foundations. And then this is the Charlotte Tilbury. Out of the two, I'd say that the Charlotte Tilbury just creates more of a radiant look to the skin. And if you look closely enough, I feel as though the Charlotte Tilbury has blurred my pores a little bit more than the Estée Lauder Double Wear. And I think with the Charlotte Tilbury, my overall appearance on my skin seems to be a little bit more blurred, more perfected and smoother and more radiant. I have a dry skin and I find both sides do look very hydrated and my skin does not feel dry at all. If you had to ask me to pick between the two right now, I absolutely could not because I do love both of them. However, the Charlotte Tilbury is a lot heavier on the skin and more perfected, and the Charlotte Tilbury would be wonderful for weddings or any events that you might have on. I'm going to check in with you in 5 hours time and we'll see which one wore the best and which one lasted the longest. I know from experience they both do, but I've never actually compared them side by side. So we'll see how we go. I'll see you in 5 hours time. Okay, I'm back. It has been 5 hours since I filmed, so it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now. I've been out in the wind. I've been down to the shops. I've been visiting a friend. So I've actually done quite a bit in those 5 hours, and I must admit that both sides of my face are still looking as flawless as they did 5 hours ago. And I find that the Estée Lauder may have oxidized a little bit because I find it matches up perfectly with the Charlotte Tilbury side of my face. As you can see, the natural oils in my skin have started to come through, so my skin is looking even more hydrated than it was 5 hours ago. I find that the foundation always looks a lot nicer when it's worn in a little bit. I've had absolutely no separation with either product. They've both blurred my pores. So far they're both holding up beautifully. I'd probably say that the Charlotte Tilbury has more of a heavier coverage than the Double Wear. And I find as I've gone throughout the day, the Double Wear is looking as radiant as the Charlotte Tilbury. So as I expected, I'm absolutely thrilled with the way they both have worn. They've both stayed on beautifully. And I will be catching up with you again in another 5 hours time. Hi guys, I'm back. It's 5 hours later again, so it's 9 o'clock at night. So both foundations have lasted absolutely beautifully. They're both still quite a heavy coverage. A main difference I've noticed is that the Charlotte Tilbury has come out a lot more glowy and giving my skin more of a hydrated look. As you can see, this side of my face is a lot more glowy and shiny than the Double Wear. The Double Wear has stayed more matte, which it is meant to, and it's also meant to control oil, which I believe it's done a pretty good job. I do have a dry skin, but as you can see, the natural oils on this side of my face haven't come out as much as the Charlotte Tilbury side. The foundation has separated just a little bit on my chin, and that's on the Double Wear side of my face. I do normally have a slight bit of separation at the end of the day when I do wear Double Wear, so that was expected. But considering it's been 10 hours, I think they've both lasted beautifully. If you're trying to decide between the two, if you have more of a dry skin, the Charlotte Tilbury does feel a lot more hydrating than the Double Wear. It even feels hydrating to touch. However, I find it is more of a heavier coverage than the Double Wear. The Double Wear, you can start it off as a medium coverage and then sort of build it up. And the Double Wear is absolutely wonderful if you have an oily skin. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I hope you found it helpful. And if you've made it this far in the video, please remember to like and subscribe as it helps me out a lot. And I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.